name's Bond. James Bond.
Hello and welcome. You're listening to Bond vs. Godzilla, the podcast that compares and contrasts two of the longest-running film series in cinema history. My name is Cruz Moore, and I will be your resident Godzilla expert on this show. Joining me on this cinematic journey for however long it lasts are three of my very good friends who each have their own history and experience with both film franchises. Bond expert Jacob Roberts.
My name is Jacob Roberts, and these teeth are really uncomfortable.
Audio engineer Willie Crook.
I require only your strongest potions.
And digital artist Chas Lemons.
My name is Charles Lemons, and I'm pouring out the contents of 2 submarines.
On today's episode, we'll be tackling The Spy Who Loved Me from 1977 and Godzilla vs. the Smog Monster from 1971. So without further ado, Jake, give us a backstory on Thunderball's Revenge.
The 10th James Bond movie is based off of Ian Fleming's 9th James Bond novel. Well, not really. Eon Productions only had the rights to use the title of the original book, and not any of the plot elements within it, as Ian Fleming himself felt that the original book's plot was lackluster and he wasn't too proud of it. Therefore, Eon Productions had to write a fully original plot for the movie, and while previous films had taken creative liberties to update the original Fleming novels, this would be the first film that would borrow absolutely nothing from the source material. With the departure of Harry Saltzman, and coming after the unfavorable reception of The Man with the Golden Gun, Cubby Broccoli knew that the next Bond film would be do or die for the franchise. Therefore, it was decided that the next film needed to be the most ambitious one yet, and would end up being filmed across 7 countries. Guy Hamilton, who directed the previous 3 films, also turned down the offer to direct, and so Cubby turned to Lewis Gilbert, who had previously directed You Only Live Twice, in the hopes that he would repeat his previous success. It would be Gilbert that would push the direction of the film in a way that would benefit Roger Moore, as opposed to trying to make something in the same vein as the Connery era. Composer Marvin Hamlish filled in for the unavailable John Barry, and provided the film with a distinct disco-style soundtrack. The main theme of The Spy Who Loved Me is détente, a political policy that would serve as the primary theme for the remainder of Roger Moore's tenure. The Cold War in the 1970s was defined by détente, which lasted until the 80s. The policy was designed to ease tensions between East and West, opening a line of communication and cooperation in order to bring the conflict to an end. The Spy Who Loved Me is essentially a microcosm of this period, told in the form of a James Bond plot. It is born of a worldwide desire for peace, faced with distrust and escalating nuclear fear.
So you said that they had to make a wholly original story for this movie, but in actuality, it feels like a mishmash of like Thunderball and You Only Live Twice, which makes sense because they have the director from that one. And if we fast forward to the future, we get like a better version of Quantum of Solace in this movie. So how do you feel about it kind of being like because since they were changing like different parts of the staff, like why do you feel like this one feels so much like the other ones?
There's definitely a lot of similarities, especially to You Only Live Twice. I think some of that does go to having the same director, having a similar vision and the way it was shot. And like I said, even the plot itself, just replace water with, or to replace space with water, and you pretty much have the same plot. And you'll even see with movies going forward, borrowing already used plot elements is something that the Roger Moore era is not a stranger to. Those similarities do exist. And funnily enough, it's not just in the feel and the writing of the movie. A lot of production in this movie shares a lot of similarities to previous films as well. Ken Adam comes in and knocks it out of the park, especially with his design of the model for Atlantis and the interior of the Laparis tanker.
Which pretty much looked like the Legion of Doom.
Once again, he had a massive vision for the interior of this super tanker that's big enough to hold 3 full-size submarines inside that was going to host this massive battle. Great set, brilliant set. But this time he was smart enough not to repeat the process that he used to create the volcano base. So instead, a whole new permanent soundstage specifically for James Bond was built at Pinewood Studios. It's called the 007 Soundstage. At the time of its building, it was the biggest soundstage in the world, and it was built specifically originally to hold this Laparis tanker set. Since then, it's hosted sets for numerous big blockbuster films. It's been burned to the ground and rebuilt, I think, twice.
Oh, wow.
And it was even christened, when it was rebuilt the second time, it was rechristened as the Cubby Broccoli 007 soundstage, which is nice. And another interesting fact about the Laparis set was Stanley Kubrick was sent in as essentially for consultation to figure out how to light the damn thing. The ski segments on which were filmed at Mount Asgard in Canada. Most of those skiing segments were filmed by Willy Bogner, who's done pretty much all the big James Bond ski action sequences we've seen in all the movies up till now.
Which had the potential to be the greatest opening scene that we've had in this series so far. Because Bond has this moment where he just skis off the side of a mountain and the camera just holds on him with, I think, no music at the same time. And the whole time I'm just laughing my ass off because I legitimately think he's going to die. He keeps flailing and flailing. And it's like the scene out of The Other Guys where they just hit the fucking pavement. And I'm just like, what the hell's happening?
It's funny because, the Asgard jump is often considered to be one of the greatest James Bond stunts of all time.
Yeah.
Just the whole him going off that massive mountain, free falling for seconds upon seconds before opening up to the Union Jack.
That's true. Like now that
big
I think
crowd pleaser.
Now that I actually think about it, and I get out of my laughing hysteria, I'm like, oh wait, no, that actually was shot in real time and actually done by a real person.
Well,
so that's cool.
I thought it was pretty cool how the score opened up right as he opens the parachute. I thought that was
Yeah,
It
pretty
was
that
so
was cool,
badass. Well, see, the funny thing is
You
'cause-
really wanted him to hit the ground,
I did.
just like they did in the other freaking movie with Lazenby.
Because I'm like, what was his
That's how we
plan?
bring in Timothy Dalton. So
That would have been perfect, actually.
5 movies earlier, so
well, I mean, in all seriousness, that stunt was actually the most expensive movie stunt at the time.
what?
Yeah, it cost them $500,000 to pull off that stunt, involving with waiting for the perfect day to actually do the stunt, bringing in the equipment, making everything was perfect. It cost about $500,000 just to pull off that ski jump.
What equipment other than the helicopter and the camera?
All of it went to life insurance.
Well, you see, there were actually supposed to be multiple cameras on Bond for that shot, for the jump between them. But when the stuntman went off the cliff and performed the jump, all of the cameramen lost the stuntman except for one.
Wow.
One cameraman did not lose him and just kept filming and lingering on him. And so that's how we got that one single long shot that we get in the final film.
That's
because
good.
that was the one cameraman that was actually able to stay on the stuntman.
Yeah, because everybody else was probably having to track a guy falling at terminal velocity.
Basically.
That's actually a really cool movie trivia
and
tidbit.
cut, and all of you are fired except for that guy.
And then the other similarity you pointed out was the similarities to Thunderball with the underwater sequences. And once again, all those shots were filmed by Lamar Boren, the same photographer responsible for all of the underwater sequences in Thunderball. So yeah, a lot of different angles and knowledge and contacts came together to form The Spy Who Loved Me.
Which, as an overall picture, I thought it was definitely one of the most entertaining so far, and it really reached that level of quality that I've come to expect.
This film is generally considered to be Roger Moore's best film. So what are your thoughts on the main Bond villain, Karl Stromberg?
This is kind of like the villain in Thunderball 2.0 because he actually has a reason as to why he loves water and sharks and aquatic-based stuff. So I feel like that's an improvement upon that. Although it's a Bond film, but I am questioning why someone feels the need to kill someone with a shark and then like, okay, you're free to go, blow up a helicopter. Like, could have just used the sharks again, buddy.
Sharks were full.
No, they weren't. Their sharks are never full.
Hey, sharks need leftovers too, Pally.
I've honestly never liked Stromberg. He ranks as one of my least favorite villains in the series, mostly because I feel he's pretty unmemorable.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, that's a worse sin than just being bad. Because, with a bad villain, at least you remember them.
Because the thing is that I like his plot. Mm-hmm. Like, I like his plan. I like his... Well, I say like, you know what I mean.
His plan to create C-Lab 2021.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Uh-huh. But when I saw him for the first time in the movie, I was like, who is that guy?
Yeah, you don't remember him.
But it's like, yeah, he's unmemorable. He doesn't have a lot of lines.
Yeah, no, that's the main problem I have with Stromberg is that he only has like a couple of conversations with Bond throughout the entire movie. Mm-hmm. He does. I think a strength of a good villain lies in the rapport and the relation that they have with Bond, and Stromberg doesn't have that.
And even his death is kind of...
Yeah, I was surprised that was just the end of it. I thought he'd come back somehow.
I mean, he got shot in both nuts. I don't think he wants to come back. Like, that was the thing about Stromberg is, like, his whole deal was that he had cool gadgets, he had a cool lair, but he kind of seemed like more of a introverted villain. He didn't really seem all that interested in talking to Bond.
That being said, though, with as much of a disappointment I think that Stromberg is, the show is really stolen by the greatest henchman in James Bond history. The one, the only Jaws.
It should have turned out that he was pulling the strings the whole time.
That would have been so cool. But
Jaws pulled strings. Jaws. The whole time we were pretty much just thinking that he's Frankenstein in this movie. So.
Jaws definitely, he has a reputation. He has a legacy. He is the great James Bond villain. I bring up the fact that, one of the things I really miss in more recent Bond films is a really memorable henchman. And I remember watching Spectre, who has, the character of Mr. Hinks, who essentially is that, big, strong, recurring, hard-to-kill henchman. And to me, he always just felt like Diet Jaws.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, Batista didn't have any, gimmick going for him. And it's just,
No, he was just big. And, he has the same plot points as Jaws, just this...
Except
henchman
Jaws.
who keeps showing up for an occasional battle, even having a big old battle on a train.
Yeah.
But you remember Jaws, you don't remember Hanks.
Yeah, because he kills people with a large and painful hickey. And there's a legit jump scare with him too. You have this really quiet scene trying to figure out, is Bond gonna go into Triple X's coach
that
to
scene
kind
is
of hit
great
on her?
because it just goes on and it's dead silence and it's just the two walking around, not interacting. It's just really dead silence. And just when you're about to think God, this is slogging, boom.
Mm-hmm. Because Chaz and I are just doing
Surprise, motherfucker.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Chaz and I are just doing our rapport and adding commentary to the scene. All of a sudden, he bursts out of a closet. We're like, "Oh fuck!"
Yeah, like you legit screamed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I screamed, Cruz screamed.
We
We all screamed
Scream
for
for
Jaws.
Jaws.
Yeah, Jaws almost has kind of the persona or the kind of atmosphere of Mr. X from the RE2 remake.
Oh my
Right.
god, that's right.
Yeah,
like
he
that.
could be.
Yeah.
He can just show up behind any corner at any time. He's somehow everywhere at once. And one of the things I think makes Jaws so effective isn't even so much the metal teeth. I think Jaws could have worked even without the metal teeth gimmick, which is badass. I love the metal teeth, but he has this perfect blend of sincere, intense threat. Yet at the same time, he's also a bit of a comical figure because of his size. He's really, Richard Kiel is really great at kind of this physical comedy. Like, for example, him haphazardly tearing the van apart, not even intentionally, just haphazardly. And then immediately after, when he lifts the rock above his head and then accidentally drops it on his foot, he combines the bumblingness of like a Saturday morning cartoon villain with the actual threat of a really scary Bond villain.
But according to you, Jake, Jaws is actually a Saturday morning cartoon in the TV series.
Yeah, no, he like other popular Bond henchmen did show up in James Bond Jr. And he does talk in the cartoon, kind of just your stereotypical big dumb guy. He's always teamed up with Knick-Knack.
Oh,
So you have
go.
the giant and the midget teaming up together.
Why are we not watching this show?
We will, I'm sure. We will watch the show. At least an episode or two.
Why is it
Followed by the doozy butts.
Why isn't?
And Godzuki.
Shut up.
I'm watching that too.
Why isn't?
We're double billing it.
It's just gonna be like a Saturday morning cartoon marathon of like James Bond Jr. and Jaws and Knick-Knack and the Ace Ventura cartoon.
I remember Ace Ventura. I knew about the Ace Ventura cartoon before I knew about the movie.
Really?
I didn't know that the cartoon was based off of a movie at first.
I didn't know there was a cartoon.
Yeah, it was.
And sometimes when you're young, you don't care. The cartoon's better.
It's weird because it's like an Ace Ventura Saturday
Are
morning
you
cartoon.
saying that Ace Ventura cartoon's better than the movie?
I said when you're young.
What is the funny
I
thing
know,
about
but
the
are
Ace
you?
Ventura
But are you
cartoon?
saying it's better?
Because like
Okay.
it's like a
I've
Saturday
never
morning
seen it.
cartoon, right? So
Well, then
like,
why
it
would
has to
you
be
say
canon.
as a kid you think it's better?
Because I liked that's a generalization. As a kid, I just always,
I was a kid and I saw the cartoon at 5 a.m. one day
didn't.
before school.
I'm generally speaking. I just liked.
Well, don't
cartoons
generally
better in
speak for
general.
my generation, because when I saw that, I was like, the fuck is this?
Bitch, it's my generation too.
Yeah, and you're defacing it horribly.
I'll deface you, literally.
The monkey was funny.
I don't. I can't, why are we talking about this? I was gonna followed by the Mask cartoon series, the RoboCop cartoon series,
Everything had a cartoon.
and the Beetlejuice cartoon series.
Hey, that one was good.
It was.
That was good.
Oh yeah, Beetlejuice was awesome.
But Jimmy.
He's talking about the cartoon.
Chaz,
Jesus Christ, Cruz! Waking up at 10 this morning. Really
you're like
fucked you up.
mind cancer. It did.
Yeah, I was surprised.
I'm never getting up at 10 in the morning again.
I was surprised when you saw the message that I put as earlier. I was like, oh shit, he's already seen it. I'm fucked.
Like Richard Kiel could only have those teeth in his mouth for a few seconds at a time before he started gagging. Like he could only really do them 30 seconds at a time.
I feel like there was a mild discomfort to his look that definitely made him a little bit more menacing.
Yeah, no, you definitely tell that, he was doing his best as an actor, but, you can definitely tell that there were some times where, yeah, no, you look like you're in legitimate pain.
Well, he must be angry. No, I'm just very uncomfortable.
I know, and
It's the teeth, isn't it? No, kidney stones.
I know, and Richard Kiel, he suffered from giantism. He was he was a massive man. He was, that was not camera trickery. What you see in the film, he really was that tall. He was a massive man.
He wasn't pulling a Tom Cruise by standing on a box.
No, he's freaking massive, and but Richard Kiel, like many people who suffer from giantism, suffered physical debilitation from the condition, including having honestly pretty weak muscles. The human body is not meant to be that big, and Richard Kiel, like many people with giantism, he has pretty much very weak muscles, especially in his back. His back was never good and just got worse the older he got. You see Richard Kiel towards the end of his life, and you can just kind of see how literally bent out of shape his body is. So any physicality you see Jaws doing, even if it's just a simple jump or a simple jog, that was a stunt man, because there was actually very, very little Richard Kiel could accomplish physically.
Which in a way kind of helps, because it's like, I don't think we even need this kind of villain to run in order to intimidate you.
No, I mean, it's kind of like it's kind of like a Michael Myers kind of effect.
Yeah, exactly.
Of it's scarier the fact that he's just lumbering towards you.
Michael Myers if he had a grill.
And like I said, as I explained to you guys after the movie, that they changed the ending of the film to have Jaws survive because he was so popular at the test screenings.
Which I appreciate it, because out of all the things that you want to see come back in Bond films, it's like we don't get any Bond girls coming back, but we do get this one henchman coming back, so we got that.
I mean, like I said a couple episodes ago, I would have loved more than anything for Baron Samedi to become a recurring villain, but you pretty much get that with Jaws.
Why haven't we gotten just like a fun, spend like maybe $5-10 million on it, just have like a 5 Doctors scenario where you just bring in I mean, it's supposed to be the same character, but bring in multiple Bonds and bring in the henchmen and
Big old extravaganza, doesn't have to be canon.
yeah, exactly.
Just every Bond movie, Baron Samedi
Just
comes
make
by
a-
and gets panic shot.
Just make it like a red nose BBC special.
Yeah, I mean, I have fond memories of back in the old days playing GoldenEye 64. You know, you would get together your friends and you would make a 3-on-1 match where the one was Jaws. They would the one player would play as Jaws, and you would mod his health to maximum. And then the other 3 players would have to like work together to take out essentially raid boss Jaws. We would play it in like the Egyptian temple map to kind of replicate the fight at the Egyptian ruins, and it was a freaking blast.
Nice.
Well, speaking of that, I think because you said that they kind of like globetrot throughout this film, I thought Egypt was a really nice change of pace. Just having, I mean, I'm a huge fan of desert environments to begin with, but just having that location, having this kind of strange mysticism to it in a way.
Yeah, no, the Egypt location, like Spy Who Loved Me, I love location-wise because the film is kind of set in, really 2 major chunks. The first half takes place in the Egyptian desert. The second half takes place in a heavily water-themed Italy in the Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah.
So that creates this really good dichotomy between the 2 halves of the movie that makes it really stand out. The Egyptian locations are absolutely beautiful. Even when Bond first arrived at Egypt for the first time, I hear you guys kind of making cracks like Lawrence of Arabia, only to find out that the movie is actually crammed full of references to Lawrence of Arabia, including actually using music. So that was 100% intentional.
I think that's why I liked it so much, because it, like you said, it heavily focuses on those 2 contrasting environments. The desert, like vast desert landscapes I really love. And then ever since I was a kid, for some reason, I really like facilities or man-made technology that is somehow just submerged or half submerged in water. So think of movies like Deep Blue Sea, or if as a kid you ever went to... Universal Studios had like a Nickelodeon water park, and Not So City with their giant fortress that had water covered everywhere. So it's like you're in an environment where you can still do stuff, but there is constantly
water.
there's constantly water dripping on you, and everything's like half wet.
I like how how feasible it looks. Like it's on like big old pontoons that look like they could fill up with water. Plus, I also really like how much the camera focuses on water moving around in general. It's really gorgeous and fits with a lot of the scenery.
The grand majority of the water surface at sea, at ocean shots in this film was not shot on location at the ocean. It was that was all in a massive water tank at the 007 stage. There's not a single real tanker in the film. They actually did try to get a real super tanker to use in the film. They couldn't afford the daily insurance of it.
Yeah.
So they ended up going with a model. So any time you see the tanker out on the ocean, that's all model work.
Including that little toy boat that shoots out as well.
Yeah, that was model work.
I like seeing that.
Yeah, that's one of those shots that I forget about every time until I watch the movie again, and then I see it get shoot out. I'm always like, oh yeah, that's cool.
So the scene with the portable wet bike Junior, was that on the set, or did they do that?
Oh no, that was a real. That was actually Roger Moore on the wet bike sailing in water. The wet bike was real. That's a real existing technology, and they rented the wet bike.
This is the way it was like tiny, just kind of right.
Are you thinking of the Futurama hovercraft?
Exactly. It reminded me of like the dinky little hovercraft they put them on.
That's exactly what I was thinking of.
Except like a big spy version.
Yeah, because in the credits of the movie it says like copyright wet bike.
Yeah,
technology or whatever.
they put wet bike in as things for the movie. Interesting thing about about the Egyptian filming that while they were there on a day of filming, the catering did not arrive
Oh no.
Just didn't arrive.
while they were filming out in the middle of the Egyptian desert.
Oh shit.
And so Cubby Broccoli himself went out, bought, cooked, and served a spaghetti meal for the entire cast and crew. Roger Moore himself even helped serve the spaghetti
That's
to
cool.
everybody.
So, this is completely a pointless question, but like, was it just pasta or was there like marinara sauce?
I think there was marinara. There should have been marinara. Yeah, it was a simple just spaghetti dinner.
Okay.
All right,
It just reminds me of the behind the scenes stuff of when they're working on Spirited Away and how one employee's job is to just make spaghetti and all it is just plain noodles that they're just eating and then getting back to work on Spirited Away. Like, did this same thing happen in Egypt as well?
Oh, that'd be so harsh.
They filmed on location at Giza, but they couldn't light the pyramids and the Sphinx properly. So in the end, they just had to end up using a mat in the background.
It works though.
Yeah.
It worked really well. There's
I'm not sure what that performance was though. Like,
it was supposed to be just a kind of something for the tourists. Like the tourists come and they see this light show and it's all going on. And I've always loved that scene. Just the general atmosphere of it, the darkness and the changing lights, and how every time the lights come on and off again, like Jaws is moved, and that entire sequence and set honestly kind of like always kind of legitimately terrified me as a kid. Like that was one of those scenes that always made me feel legitimately tense with the music and the lighting. Another big topic that I want to hit up because it is freaking awesome is the Lotus Esprit, the second coolest car in the James Bond franchise. Only 70 Esprits existed in the world. 6 of them were provided to Eon Productions for filming, including stripped-down body shells for Ken Adam to create the models for the underwater transformation shots.
And one of them Jacob has on layaway.
Oh, he fucking
Paying it off
wishes.
$20 at a time. So essentially for the shots that each stage of the transformation was a different model. So you had one model for the wheels going in, another model for the plate going over where the wheels go, another model for the fins to come out. The final submarine car was not a model. The Lotus Esprit, which they nicknamed Wet Nelly, it was engineered into a fully operational submarine by this company called Perry Oceanographics. It was capable of diving, rising, and turning. The only real difference to what we see in the film is that the fully operational model was not watertight, so the cabin was filled with water and the driver had to be wearing scuba gear. But aside from that, it was 100% fully operational submarine that they made out of a fucking car. Wet Nelly itself was purchased at auction in 2013 by none other than Elon Musk
I knew it.
for £616,000. So yeah, Elon Musk has the car, because of course he does. So that is the story behind the second coolest car in James Bond.
I mean, if you had like millions of dollars, Jake, like what piece of Bond history would you immediately purchase?
If I could, the original DB5. I mean, I know that's long past, and that's already in private collection, and that's but I wouldn't even drive it. I would just it would just sit in my palace made out of gold. So, Agent Triple X. Tell us about what is obviously the greatest Bond girl to ever exist, in your opinion.
I don't even know where to start. It's not even that she's bad. It's that, okay, so we have her set up. We have this interesting vendetta from the very beginning with this Russian spy who tells us from the very beginning that once this mission is over, or is that later? I can't even remember. Either way, it's her job to kind of be a double spy and like eventually find out that, oh, Bond is the person responsible for killing, what was it, fiance?
Yeah, her lover.
Yeah. So that's kind of like a just I can't even. This is the thought of it.
The physical pain on his face right now.
So the whole time she's very stone-faced. She has to be a professional. She has to be good at what she does, and she has this like anything you can do, I can do better thing going with Bond, and it's playful and interesting to see. But there's also, I feel, no real chemistry going between them because of that. And then we get to Naomi, who is just this like. Oh,
Goddamn gorgeous.
Goodness. just steps out of this boat, just all legs. You got a perfect beauty mark, long brown hair.
Yeah.
and like she has this look with Bond, and like Triple X is there at the same time, and she has this look of like ugh. Just has this like immediate conflict between this other woman, and you think there's going to be something there as well, just some kind of interesting conflict. And then she has this amazing that was an amazing helicopter chase. Like, holy shit. You have this tracking shot of this car going up the mountain, and then the helicopter just comes into frame above the mountain. It's an amazing shot. And Naomi, my waifu, is just piloting the whole thing. And then Bond just fucking shoots her from underwater, and the helicopter blows up. It's just, yep.
With his car submarine ICBM.
When it comes to Anya Masova, I really enjoyed her when I was younger. She was one of my all-time favorite Bond girls. As I grew older, I kind of discovered problems I had with her character, mainly with like some of her really deadpan line delivery. Never been a fan of her just being taken by Stromberg at the end just for the sake of having a damsel in distress that Bond had to save. You know, kind of the same problem that Tiffany Case ran into. She starts out, really strong and really independent, really capable. Oh, you're just the princess in the dragon's castle now.
At least Tiffany had like this sense of humor to her.
Yeah, I do now would rank Tiffany above Anya. The thing is with Anya that I always really liked when I was younger was more the idea of her, the sense that here is just a general idea of her being Bond's equal. And for the first half of the movie, it's generally, a spy versus spy film, which I've always loved. I love the idea of spy versus spy, and they're using these gadgets and skills and subterfuge to one-up each other, and I love that. But as I got older and I look at her, I'm like, okay, yeah, her acting is actually pretty wooden at times. They didn't really execute her to the best that they possibly could, especially in the second half.
And nor does it help that, like, by the time we get to the end of the film and she's had this objective this whole time and nothing's going to stand in her way, but hey, doesn't matter that much. I'm going to just jump into bed with him anyway.
That dick.
He kind of has the explanation like he knew what he was signing up for, and so do you, and so do I.
Yeah.
It's like that kind of makes sense. So also it is kind of neat to see James Bond have an industry discussion with somebody who's not like Moneypenny or someone else.
Yeah, I love the conversation of the train of we're in the same business, but we can't talk to each other. God, I really like that. To be fair, I do
just like therapists and doctors.
I do really legitimately like the chemistry between Bond and Anya. I do think that there is chemistry there, and I do enjoy it. I do think they have good rapport. I think Barbara Brock's acting gets in the way sometimes, but I honestly think as far as just the dynamic is concerned, it's one of the strongest in the series.
I think we can't fault Cruz for wanting to die for somebody who could turn a helicopter on a dime
who
with
wouldn't?
machine guns.
Who fucking
Naomi, why didn't you know?
Because the reason I like the dynamic is that, especially compared to other Bond girls, compared to other Bond girls, I feel like Bond never looks down on Anya. From the moment they met, Bond does respect Anya and treat her as an equal. He has fun with her at times, in his kind of quippish, boyish British charm, but never once does he really demean her. You can tell that there is mutual respect there, which you don't get with a lot of Bond girls. Like they say, Triple X is one of the few Bond girls that can stand on equal footing on Bond, and he respects that.
Plus, she's like the progenitor of Eva from
Oh, yeah.
Metal Gear Solid 3, so that's pretty cool. And she has the knockout cigarette.
She's
trick.
got the. I was really glad you guys when you saw
Yeah,
the
exactly.
knockout cigarettes. Like, yeah, that's where they got it from.
Yeah.
I mean,
And then the next time James Bond hands her a smoke, he's like, "Here, I'm gonna
No,
make sure
wait
to
a
light that.
minute.
I'm making sure to light that this time."
it's a small little attention to detail I've always really liked. But yeah, no, Eva is essentially Anya done perfectly. She's Anya done right.
Naomi. I will avenge you, I swear. I'm convinced that she's not dead. We don't actually see her die on screen.
There's no body.
That's true.
Technically, if in that same respect, we don't see the two guys that he was going to pay $10 million to die either.
Oh yeah, they totally survived.
It's not fair.
Well, Cruz, you are already dating somebody you're comfortable making cougar jokes with.
There's plenty of lionfish in the sea.
She's like a 1970s Jennifer Connelly, for fuck's sake. She was in Casino Royale.
67?
Yeah. She was a guard girl. Well, time for us to watch that movie again.
Maybe time for you to watch it again.
All right, fine. Willie's not invited to the yearly
Wait a minute.
party.
But anyway, it's leading up to this thing of like, okay, so Bond kills this delicious slice of hot berry pie, and then later on in the movie, he proceeds to blow up 50 men with nuclear missiles of all things.
Bond launches nukes, 2 of them.
Yep, and I can no longer really see him as a hero after that.
And this is where the argument begins.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we had. Because
I don't
obviously
think-
the counter is that he had to destroy the submarines, or else the submarines would have destroyed 2 of the largest cities on the planet.
But
So,
that's
Cruz,
not a little.
which would have started World War III.
Cruz, tell me. I've seen worse.
I
Cruz,
have.
Cruz, tell me who
I
pushed
saw the death of Naomi.
the launch button on those nukes?
Bond.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh no, technically the captains of the submarine pushed the launch buttons. Bond just gave them the coordinates.
Thank you.
Well, George Lazenby has that shot where he's fucking standing. I'm losing my brain. Roger Moore is standing there with his hands behind his back, and he's got the captain hat on, and he's looking straight forward. I'm like, this guy has a taste for blood now. I don't know. To me, that's overkill. I understand it's to save the world and everything, but I mean, fuck, dude, you blew up like 50 people with 2 nukes.
Like,
I mean,
That is
how would you have saved the world, Cruz? How would you have saved?
Doing what everyone has to do eventually, Jake. Sit down and talk.
Thank you.
I mean, it's a little hard. It's a
I
little.
just want you to think, Chaz. Do you know what thinking is? It's just a fancy word for changing your mind. And if
Okay.
you don't, then you will die stupid. Alternatively, you could step away from this Bond film. You could walk out that door and stand your lionfish down.
From now on, all nuclear submarines will be equipped with a box with 2 buttons.
It's a little hard to have a
And you
conversation.
think this is a Bond film, this little silly little thing? I've seen more Bond films than you will ever know. I've seen worse films than you can ever imagine. And when I close my eyes,
I watched
I see more. I see more dead Naomis than anyone should ever be able to count.
Do you know what you do with those dead Naomis? You hold them tight.
Tight. Until they burn your hand, and you say this: no other brunettes will ever have to die like this. No other blonde will have to feel this pain. Not on my watch.
That was pretty great.
That was amazing.
And most importantly, be kind.
I mean, it's a little hard to have a nuanced conversation with 500 tons of TNT going off in both sides of the Atlantic. I'll be honest.
I mean, it comes from the fact that, like, I see nuclear missiles as both fascinating and one of the worst creations ever made by mankind.
I mean, do you
Yeah.
want Godzilla? That's how you get Godzilla.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But Cruz, Godzilla loves nuclear missiles. Are you crazy?
Yeah, but at least he keeps them all to himself. He doesn't share the wealth.
One thing I will admit that he could.
Nice to meet you, 00 Harry S. Truman. I mean Bond.
One thing I will admit that he could have tried doing was basically sending a message saying, your boss is eliminated, you have no recourse of what to do. You guys might as well give up before starting World War III, or you could die in the apocalypse like everyone else.
There you go. You answered my own question then.
What? I mean, they could have also just been panicked and like, launch the nukes. We're fucked anyway. So I mean, it's hard to say either way.
I don't know.
Because making the subs destroy each other is guaranteed victory. That's World War III prevented. Mm-hmm. James Bond, especially Roger Moore's James Bond, if he felt like he had the choice, he would not launch nukes. If he had the choice.
It's the same argument from Clerks of like all the people working on the Death Star, did they deserve to die? So that's pretty much what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there were a couple chefs or janitors on those subs that didn't want to be turned into nuclear mist.
Oh wait, you were talking about the subs. I thought you were talking about the Death Star still.
That too.
Yeah, why would they bring chefs or anybody else on a mission that they think is going to take like half a day at the most?
To celebrate their victory.
To celebrate World War III? I mean, they're getting paid probably pretty handsomely, but they're probably not that happy about it.
Look at it this way, Cruz. If Bond had failed at stopping, what's his face, Strongbird, he would have killed the people on the subs anyway. He probably would have killed those people the same way he killed the two.
Are you saying Stromberg would have killed him?
Yeah.
Well, what my problem is that the hero of this movie nuked people.
No, I get that.
Stromberg's whole thing was he wanted to restart civilization in C-Lab. And you can't really do that if you literally kill everyone who works for you.
That's true too.
Which I thought was cool. I mean, I really like. I mean, it's bonkers, but it's like you need to go into the logistics of it. Of like, okay, do you have things built underwater already, buddy? Or
I have always felt that Stromberg's.
Will people play violins underneath the water? Who will make the violins?
His whole thing is that he'll destroy New York and Moscow, and then he assumes that will start World War III, and then he assumes that will destroy all life on the surface, so that he can live underwater in his underwater utopia.
See, it could have been like a Dark Knight situation where like the prisoners are going to kill the people and the people are going to kill the prisoners, and then they both decide not to, and then Batman's like, haha, they didn't do it, Joker. What if Bond just didn't fire and the people on the subs didn't fire?
Well, I mean, the people on the subs were going to fire. They still fired. Even after they got their new coordinates, they pushed that button.
They're just like, I didn't know New York moved 80 miles.
Yeah, because the two subs were going to fire on New York and Moscow. So the two sides of the East and West think that each other nuked each other, so they start World War III, mutually assured destruction.
So
what Bond did, he switched the target coordinates and sent them to the submarines, unknowingly fired the missiles at each other.
I watched the movie, Jake. I know this.
So wait, was there a part that you needed to pick up from what Jake just said? Or?
No, what I wanted to ask was, what if he just gave him the coordinates of Antarctica?
Well, then
you would be mad that James Bond melted Antarctica.
Yeah, that would just Cruz.
You would still
fine. Just
you would be angry no matter where Bond sent the nukes.
Pick a spot in the ocean. Just
Cruz.
He did each other.
Yeah.
No, there were two subs there.
They probably had families like that fucking depressed doll from Aqua Teen Hunger Force had a family.
Bond literally could have picked any other 2 points in the ocean.
True.
But you get to wipe out 20 terrorists in the process.
That's a fair point.
Yeah, but that's such overkill.
Well, what else were they going to do?
They fire the nukes and then they have no more nukes. There you go.
How do you know they don't have backup nukes?
Yeah,
They only had one, right?
They only had one.
they
Yeah,
still
see?
have.
How do you know?
Because that was in the
you saw
movie.
the nukes being loaded into the submarine.
Yeah.
You saw only one beam.
Because they only had one, and
Chris.
you only need one.
Yeah, but you
But
still
what
have.
if?
You still have a nuclear submarine with fuel that can basically do what a nuke does, except slowly.
Okay,
Yeah,
hold on.
you would still have two. You would have a Soviet and a British nuclear submarine, military equipment from these governments in the hands of terrorists.
Okay, hold on. So you launched the nukes elsewhere, right? You have the coordinates of the sub still, right?
You just want to hit. You just want to hit the Iron Giant with them, don't you?
Okay, so you have the coordinates of the subs, right?
Yeah.
So send the nukes into the ocean, and then send the police boats to the subs. Send the cavalry to the subs.
But the problem is the police don't have depth charges or submarines.
Yeah, they do.
No, they don't.
The British have submarines.
Yeah, they would have to call they would have to call in the military for that.
They've done it before.
I mean, yeah, they could, but also the submarines can move, dude. Do you know how?
So track the submarines.
Yeah, which is probably possible, but that was a really hard thing to do back then. That was the whole.
They know where the subs are.
I mean, from what the movie makes it look like, the submarine tracking system uses the thermal wake left behind by the submarine to chart their path.
There you go.
So yeah, theoretically, you could dive a submarine deep enough to avoid tracking that way.
Okay, fine. If they disappear, then no harm, no foul.
Yeah, and then they just start again from somewhere else and try and continue.
No, they
being
wouldn't, because
terrorists.
their boss is dead. They wouldn't have anything left to do. They'd be like,
yeah,
well, let's break for lunch.
They elect a new
They
boss.
get a new boss, and they would take those submarines that they now have full access to and sell those on the black market.
Or they could
putting them in
just-
the hand of another supervillain.
Congratulations, Cruz. You just have terrorist Winco now. Are you happy?
I mean, they could just drive their subs to, I don't know, Japan and just chill there and hang out and have fun. They could
Oh,
sell
yeah.
the submarines.
Oh yeah, totally. Well,
Who with any good conscience, that's a good person, is going to buy two stolen military nuclear submarines?
Yeah,
A smart person.
Yakuza guy just walks up, tries to scrape off the red star. No bite.
Yeah, Godzilla would never nuke anyone.
He is
literally a walking nuke.
he nuked Hedora.
You can't prove anything.
The innocent Hedora.
You can't prove
All
anything.
Hindo-
Literally nukes every time he breathes with enough strength to give him thrust.
Send your letters to Amnesty International House of Pancakes.
Oh, we're so glad you're here, Master Bond. We're so scared.
So to wrap up,
This intermission brought to you by Prozac.
Nobody does it better. Makes me feel sad for the rest. Nobody does it half as good as you. Baby, you're the best. I wasn't looking, but somehow you found me. I tried to hide from your love, but like heaven above me, the spy who loved me is keeping all my secrets safe tonight.
We now begin our journey into the 1970s, a decade that many critics and Godzilla fans consider to be the worst for Godzilla movies after the series finished its golden age. This era begins with Godzilla vs. Hedorah, or Godzilla vs. the Smog Monster, a film that had no involvement from Ishiro Honda, Akira Ifukube, or Eiji Tsuburaya, with his passing after Godzilla's revenge. Meanwhile, Japan was beginning to feel the effects of its post-war industrial growth, with air and water pollution leading to illness and disease, to the point where oxygen tanks were installed on street corners, and children attended school wearing masks to filter out smog. Sophomore director and newcomer to the series Yoshimitsu Banno was given carte blanche to breathe new life into the series, and decided to truly make Godzilla a hero who had to fight a monster born from the environmental carelessness of mankind. The socially relevant kaiju movie turned out to be one of the weirdest sequels in the series, featuring animated sequences, acid trip visuals, and a ton of human casualties, and thus has always been one of my personal favorites. So what did you guys think of Godzilla meets Captain Planet?
Fuck do we start with this?
Somewhere.
How about we start with my favorite comment of yours, Jake?
Okay.
Where Godzilla is just spinning Hedorah in a circle and thus causing all of his disgusting goop to fly everywhere and kills a bunch of businessmen that are just dead and drowned in goop. And Jake just goes, I save the day.
That was the first visual that really was like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
This movie, like this, coming off the heels of Revenge,
Happy-go-lucky revenge.
and just going into,
Skeletons.
God damn, that was dark. It was so intense, but I loved it. It was imagining what a Godzilla film is. If you just came up to me and gave me a very bare bones general synopsis of Godzilla being here's Godzilla, it's just giant lizard and he fights other giant monsters. What I would originally envision would be something akin to this, with this level of carnage and just general dourness. I don't even want to say mean-spiritedness, because it wasn't mean-spirited. It was just gratuitous.
It's like all the things that, like, I mean, the original Godzilla was known for. It almost feels like Bono came back and it's like, we're going to kind of put these things more in your face and remind you that we are trying to send a message with these things. And we're kind of fucking up the environment right now. So we're not going to shy away from the reality of that. And we're going to express that with skeletons, people instantly falling to the ground and dying, which really, I like never saw that as a kid before. The concept of just drop dead.
It has destruction at a level similar to the original film. Only this time, hey, let's just show you all of the bodies.
Yeah, like this is more
Yeah.
about the death that the monster causes, and like in like a shot for shot level. And so like in that way, this movie really does. This movie like refuses to pull its punches.
Let's and not only that, because like the movie starts off after a James Bond title sequence. Yeah. It goes into, you just see this almost glacier of molasses moving across the ocean. Here's a, bisected mannequin. Here is a clock with no hands. Ooh, metaphor. So just right off the bat, it's just him hitting you with this imagery of death and decay. And you're like, oh, okay, this is going to be a bit more of an interesting one. Okay, well, I wonder how far they're going. Oh, they're going to go that far. Okay, they're covering a crying kitten in sludge.
Yep.
There's a baby crying bloody murder, half dipped into sewage.
Yeah, there's something very, I guess you could say sobering, being a kid and seeing a little kitten just covered in all that stuff and just not knowing how to feel about it.
Why was the kitten? Why
Oh
kitten?
man,
The baby, I can understand.
just
but
like
kitten.
just like you, Jake. It's one of those moments in the series where you're just waiting and waiting for a response, and all of you were like, "Oh no!" Oh man, I love
this
it.
movie even had silly moments, but all of the silly moments even had a veneer of despair across it. Like, you had like that teenage son who had the idea of, okay, let's just get all the youth on top of Mount Fuji and just party since the world's ending.
Yeah.
World's ending, let's just go out partying.
I mean, wasn't it kind of like supposed to be a protest at first,
Yeah, a
and
little
then
bit,
and then it's like 100 people show up and they're like, "Yeah, let's just start the music, man."
Yeah, it's great.
Where are the microphones getting power from?
Shut up, nerd. Don't think about it. It's being powered by those homeless men that are just staring in the distance.
Yeah, what the fuck was that?
Wait. Oh yeah, what the fuck was that?
Bush people.
Was that our ancestors looking down on us?
I mean, the first imagery that really, slapped me in the face in terms of what kind of wild ride we're going to be on is when it closed up on the father with the makeup they did to half of his face.
Yeah.
Because first, they make it appear that, he got killed off. He's in the water swimming. There's Hedorah just comes at him, stops on a freeze frame, cuts to the kid just yelling out fruitlessly into the water. It's like, oh no, that's dead. He's dead. That sucks. But then it, cuts it back to the house. Like, oh, he's alive. Okay, so it's not so. Oh Jesus.
Yeah.
I like that you bring up just the opening shots of the ocean just covered in sludge and pollution, because like there's something about seeing the ocean like that as a kid that for some reason I always pictured like, what if I just ended up on that thing? What if I was just floating like on a box in the middle of the ocean
among the dead fish?
Yeah, all I had was pollution keeping me afloat, and it's just there's something about that imagery that always stuck with me as a kid. It scared the shit out of me.
Some little psychological horror. I mean,
it's kind of funny you brought up like falling on, like thinking you like that stuff, like that kind of soggy stuff on the surface of the water could support you. Because I used to wonder that at the kind of man-made pond that was behind my grandparents' house at the country club they lived at. And sometimes during the summer, it would develop like an algaeic film on top of it.
Right.
And it smelled like crap.
Uh-huh.
I know exactly how you feel, because like my grandmother had this friend who they had this massive, huge, gigantic, you fall into it when there's no water and you die, pool. But it was always filled with this disgusting water because it was never used, and it had that stuff built on it. And every time I looked at it, who did you think I was thinking of? It was like the fucking Smog monster in there.
I can only imagine how, honestly, kind of traumatizing this movie could be as a kid. I mean, like,
But you're you, so.
Yeah.
no, you look at like the main kid in the movie, and you see all the absolute horrible shit he goes through in this movie, just seeing dead bodies right and left, just right in front of his face, and it's just like, the fuck, guys.
That's why I love that shot of like, it almost feels like an echo of like a nuclear explosion where he's talking on the phone and then it goes dead. And then we cut back to the phone booth, but all the glass is shattered and the phone is hanging as if an explosion went off, but it's completely silent.
As it stands right now, I'd probably go so far to say that Hedorah's probably my favorite monster so far.
Cool. I can
Because he was
definitely
so
see that.
well realized.
Because like we're coming off of like all the insects and kind of basic designs, and of course they kept bringing back the classics: Rodan, Mothra, King Ghidorah. And now, like, even though people can say whatever they want about the '70s films, they do have unique monster designs, and I think Ghidorah is probably one of the most creative that has come out of there.
Design, just
And
in terms of design, like it's obviously it's like it's a rubbery suit, but they still did a good job of making it look drippy and gooey and amorphous, and just like the sideways eyelid red eyes. It's just such a striking image. The rest of it is just like in all silhouette, but you see these eyes piercing through, and occasionally how his head bulges out with that red glow. It's just such a well-designed monster.
It really is, and it's kind of funny that this is the movie that we saw last night, because my stepbrother, one of them, who is a tattoo artist, is in town today, came in today. And tomorrow he is actually doing, I know tomorrow will be the past in the podcast, but whatever.
We got it.
Will be doing a Hedorah tattoo on a guy who like has nothing but Godzilla tattoos on him, he said. And
how did that come about? Did you just tell him that you're doing a podcast? And then
yeah,
he's like, hey, by the way.
I told him a topic came up and it reminded me of a scene in Hedorah, and then he looked at me and said, "Wait, what was the name?"
Nice.
Yeah, Hedorah. And I showed it to him, and then he pulls out his tablet and shows me
That's fucking perfect.
A tattoo that he designed for for his client, and I was like, dude, that's fucking great.
This is why we're doing this show.
I think like
For these one in a moment serendipitous things.
Yeah.
I think probably the best part about Hedora is like this is his first movie, right? The first movie Hedora's in.
He's only in 2 throughout the entire series.
But this is the first movie that he's been in so far, right?
Well, you tell me, Chaz. You've been watching all of them.
No, like ever. Like Hedora doesn't have his own.
Oh,
storyline or
gotcha.
anything.
I'm being an asshole. Yeah.
What else is new? So that, and that's pretty cool. So we have this kid's kind of fucked up visions, Hedora's backstory, and a Godzilla breakdown all in one movie. That's pretty impressive for like stuff you could fit in a movie.
I'm actually
And
kind
plus,
of...
sorry, I'm not done yet. Plus, you get like a pretty full explanation of how Hedora works, how he can reproduce.
He was fully realized. Like they put a lot of like attention and detail and thought into him and how he works and his rules.
Yeah, like especially that early on shot where it shows Hedora jumping over the kid and him sticking his knife up, and it's probably just a shot of them holding the kid, putting the knife down, and then just running the kid along a pile of mud. But it looks really effective in making Hedora look like this giant blob of who knows what.
Exactly.
Special effects in this one were great.
Yeah.
I agree.
Easily the best special effects so far.
Just-
major step up to what we've seen so
Yeah,
far.
lots of really good small implementations. Of
No,
stuff.
I mean, I can't. I think this is the first movie that we've watched where I can't recall a single time where I'm watching and I immediately go, I know how they did that effect. I think this might be the first movie in which I was like 100% sold on everything.
Yeah, to segue off of that, special effects director Toriyoshi Nakano, who took over after Eiji Tsuburaya's passing, looks back on the film by saying, "We made Godzilla fly in that movie."
Yeah, they did.
Damn right, motherfucker.
I was waiting for more of that, but you paused, and I can't tell if they interrupted you or if there was more to it.
That was outrageous. We probably shouldn't have done that.
That is a completely wrong take. You 100% should have done that.
That's a bad take.
That was the right decision, my friend.
Looking back, the movie seems kind of cruel and heavy-handed. I was trying to show the serious threat of pollution with scenes of Godzilla's eyes being burned and people dying.
So badass though.
I know. I guess I became uncomfortable with it even while we were filming. That's why we added the comical scenes.
I mean, like, it was heavy-handed, but that's what makes it so good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like when was that interview?
It was like later on in the 90s.
Later on in the 90s?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably now they're probably like, okay, we just made the movie too early. I see our problem now.
Because, like, I'm watching this and, like, you know, Godzilla has an eye taken out, and he both of his hands are reduced to freaking skeletons.
Yeah.
And I'm just losing my shit.
This Venom
Yeah.
Godzilla.
Like, this is so
Yeah,
fucking
exactly.
metal.
But like you said, Jack, keep in mind this was after Revenge
Yeah.
and Destroy All Monsters, so it was much darker than anyone was really
Yeah, no,
anticipating.
because in terms of, like, violence and stuff, like, it was not a gradual scale. It was, boom, we're now up here.
Like you've touched on multiple times in the series, like I got kind of upset that the series got more lighthearted and comical. And so I was like
Willie's
saying,
a sick puppy.
but once I realized once I finally accepted that series is going to be that way for a bit, I was able to realize that they were still good movies and still definitely good ones for first timers. But this one, I almost want to say is like you could start with either the first one or this one.
Also, to give more credit to this film more than I already have, it's the only 70s Godzilla film that doesn't feature stock footage. Because we're going to get quite a bit of that coming up.
Oh, that's a shame.
And additionally, Kenpachiro Satsuma, who played Hedora, would go on to play Godzilla in the Heisei films from 1984 to 1995.
Cool.
Nice.
His suit did not look nearly as optimized as Godzilla's. Like, it has
Yeah,
all
it's
these.
pretty like top heavy, where it's just like,
Yeah.
It
Mom
looked like
made
it.
my costume.
He kind of looks like what Lisa's state costume looked like.
I think that actually worked in the favor because Henra is not the kind of monster who's going to be, you know, doling out punches and kicks and things
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, 'cause
You know,
it doesn't need to.
It doesn't move in a humanoid manner. It covers you. It smothers you.
Yeah.
It grapples you. And I think the suit worked really well for that purpose.
Yeah, Hedora is like the embodiment of pollution, so I think it fits that he's basically a couch potato that lumbers around with eye lasers.
That's why it's also really adorable to see like all the kids dressed up for G-Fest, and anyone who's dressed up as Hedorah is pretty much just a bunch of like tassels and cellophane and just garbage. And
That's all you need.
yeah, it's great.
Yeah. Pretty neat. I feel like I had something else to say. Shit.
Well, you had
Welcome
that
back to
you had that great comment where like Godzilla tries to defend himself with like an Ultraman pose, and he ends up getting burned anyway. So you're like Super Sentai defense move. Ah, fuck.
In this movie, it really did feel like watching an actual monster fight. Like this definitely did feel like all out kaiju battle. Like there were actually moments that really sucked me in the same manner that the legendary films would do with their good CGI. These were just people in suits, but then the fight, especially that final fight was just absolutely raw.
That's a good point, because it's like by the end of this film, Godzilla
It's fucked up.
because it's so impossible to kill this thing that keeps regenerating. He is just stomping and ripping it apart and doing everything he can to make sure this thing
it just keeps
stays
coming
the
back.
fuck down.
He pulls out his life orbs and he's like,
And
fuck it, I'm gonna keep going.
Yeah, no, like he performs what looks like the final kill, reaches in, pulls out the yellow orbs and like destroy those. Like, yes, he did it. It's done, and Hedorah still comes back.
Yep.
It's still not over. Like, holy shit.
Well, Willie, for that scene where like Hedorah is being like melted, you said that like that's like one of your favorite shots in the whole series. Is just the ashes in his hands.
It was the shot of the close up of his face, just staring at it, like that shot was just like
Yeah, where it's like kind of like that upward angle stare.
yeah,
I
and he's
remember
just
that
going.
shot.
He's got this like really intense stare of just like it's fucking done.
Well, you mentioned that like this is kind of the film where Godzilla is portrayed, as the hero. He's kind of gone full on hero, and yet I'm glad that he's still Godzilla.
Yeah.
And it really helped carry home like the same message that they pushed in the legendary films, which is he's not a protector of humanity, he's a protector of the earth.
Yeah, that's
If
a good
humanity
point.
gets in the way, that's humanity's fault. And I really like how there was human collateral damage that's on Godzilla's side as well. The past large handful of films that we've had, all of the major action scenes have taken place out in the mountains or on a deserted island, away from people where no one's in danger. Finally, we're back to Godzilla fighting a monster in an industrialized urban environment where things are going to get destroyed and people are going to die.
And it's also the fact that Hedorah is the last monster in the Showa era to attack on his own accord and not be controlled by anyone else.
Interesting.
He's also like one of the few classic monsters that I think would work in a modern interpretation because it's still completely relevant.
Still 100% relevant. Like,
Yeah. Which is
it has
why
not gotten better.
Nope.
No.
It has not gotten better.
So in the prequel novel to the anime films, where all the monsters just make Earth completely uninhabitable,
That's a sentence.
yeah, Hedorah in that universe is actually a bioweapon created by the Chinese military in order to kill Rodan and Anguirus.
Right, because that sounds like a great idea.
Yep, and sure enough, it fucking backfires on everyone. And the aftermath just looks like something out of an SCP where Rodan and Anguirus are just melted skeletons.
Oh shit.
That's
It's really
badass.
cool.
Going into this project, there are 3 gifs of Godzilla that I have seen that I have been looking forward to. And I've seen 2 of those. I'm still looking forward to the 3rd.
So what's the third one?
You could probably guess what the 3rd one is.
Third gift.
But the first one that I was looking forward to was Godzilla was in I believe it was Astro Mantra, Godzilla
Yep.
doing the.
Yep.
The second one was flying with his atomic breath.
Was it
Well-
Godzilla doing a kickflip off of a city and hitting his balls? Because
okay.
that's a Syriac gift.
It's not that one.
I know you're thinking of.
I figured if you dig deep, you probably know what the 3rd GIF is.
Yeah.
Say a word that is relevant to it that would mean nothing to me.
Godzilla.
That means something to me.
I'll just say you'll know it when you see it.
You'll know when you see it.
The only thing that I want to know about the movie... yes, that's a nice house.
Yeah.
That was funny. They're having this serious discussion about the dangers of the world. This is a nice house.
Are you sure you saw sparks coming from it?
Yeah, no doubt about it.
What a beautiful house it is.
If I recall correctly, it was the scene after Sludge Cat. And they're in the house, including
Sludge cat, sludge cat, what are they feeding you?
What are you covered in?
You don't want to know.
Cruz, do you think this list of the list of things that happen in this movie are more than enough to qualify Godzilla as a militant hippie?
No, because like as you guys found by the end of the film with all the horrible things that he goes through, you guys with your own dubbing just turned him into like a PTSD kaiju where he's just walking into the distance like, oh god. And the kid's like, Godzilla, and you guys are like, what? I have had a day.
He did have a day, to be fair. And that final shot of him just like walking towards the sunset in this slow... He almost did have like a defeated hunch to him. He looked like a monster that just had half of his face and both of his arms seared off, and dude just needs to grab a pint.
Because after he first defeated Hedorah, he just looks at the military and has this 1,000-yard stare that's like, not today, guys.
No. Don't even. We'll pick this up later. No.
Yeah.
Just no.
Cut your straws and soda can tabs. So to move on to a lighter note, the version of the theme song that we have at the beginning of the film that most fans are familiar with is the English version titled Save the Earth. This version is somewhat rare because it's only featured on the VHS edition of the movie.
We have cobalt, it's full of mercury. Too many fumes in our oxygen. All the smog now is choking you and me. Good Lord, where is it gonna end? Got to get it back someday. Got to get it back and soon now. For tomorrow, maybe you and me, yeah. We're moving to the moon now. It's up to us to make a choice. We know what it's worth to save the earth. Come raise your voice. Save the earth. Save the earth. Save the earth. Save the earth. See the evil problem around us. Save the earth. Save the earth. Save the earth. Save the earth. And the solution, stop pollution. Save the earth. 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 And the solution to stop pollution. Save the earth. Save the earth. Save the earth.
Yeah, you can't die happy until you sing that song with a bunch of other G fans at G Fest. It's just, oh my god, it's so good.
I mean,
There's an unsettling uncanniness to have that cheery of a song in front of that disturbing imagery.
yeah.
So here's the story behind the creation of the English version of the song.
Okay.
Save the Earth was co-written and performed by singer-songwriter Adrienne Russ, who at the time was working as a secretary at American International Pictures. She comments, "If you're in the right place at the right time, things can happen. They just invited me to sing, we watched the clip of the movie on the screen, and we tried our best to write in English and match the mouth movements of the girl who was singing in Japanese. It's not perfect, but we came as close as we could. I spent many years not telling people that I had written the lyrics and sung the theme song. Something about it was embarrassing to me, and every time I would mention it to somebody, they thought it was incredible. I'm amazed that there's still such interest in it. I'm just excited that I was a part of it." So I'm happy all three of you guys really love this movie because Toho wasn't too happy with the final product.
Well, fuck them.
Can't imagine why.
They'll hear you. Yeah, they with how, cheerful and happy the Godzilla films were up to that point, they were kind of surprised at what Banno did, which kind of led to him never directing another Godzilla film again.
Boo!
Yeah.
Boo, Toho. Boo,
But-
Toho Testaburger.
However, Yoshimitsu Banno would eventually go on to be an executive producer when Legendary started to work on their own Godzilla MonsterVerse. So we do have Banno to thank for being one of the major influences on bringing Godzilla to America. So with Teruyushi Nakano becoming the new special effects director for the next 5 Godzilla movies, ending with my favorite, Godzilla 1985, I wanted to include a quote from him working with Eiji Tsuburaya. When we had planning meetings between the principal and special effects teams, the principal director would ask Mr. Tsuburaya, "Do you think this kind of effect is possible?" He replied, "Of course we can do it." When he said that, he had no idea how he was going to do it. I asked him why he said that, and he answered, "Unless you say you can do it, you won't get any new ideas." Nakano continues, "There are always all kinds of limitations in this field. No time, not enough budget, impossible projects that you have to do. Every time I face a situation like that, I remember what Mr. Tsuburaya used to say." We now come to our list of alternate titles, one of which Jake actually kind of predicted after we watched the movie. So for America, we have Godzilla vs. Hedorah, or my personal choice, Godzilla vs. the Smog Monster. From Spain, Hedorah, the Toxic Bubble.
That works.
That just makes me think of SpongeBob. The dirty bubble.
Did you hear him say anything about eating dirt? From Mexico, Godzilla against Monsters of Smog. From Belgium, Godzilla against the Monster of Fog.
Monsters of Smog sounds like a glam group.
I'd listen to him.
I agree.
From Italy, Godzilla Fury of the Monster.
Okay.
From Turkey, Monster Hedorah. From Brazil, the monsters invade Earth. From Germany, Frankenstein's battle against the devil monsters.
Of course.
Yeah! Frankenstein lives on! Woo!
And my personal favorite from the Netherlands, Satan's Creature.
Technically accurate.
Jesus Christ, Netherlands.
What is...
Were you ever jealous of the little kids' Godzilla toy collection?
No, because I had a much bigger one, dude.
Yeah!
Did you ever wish you
Ain't got
could...
shit on me.
But his Godzilla collection's got shit on it.
Exactly.
But, oh,
Never leave your toys outside, kids.
but Cruz.
Because some asshole will steal your King Ghidorah in kindergarten.
地球の上に誰もいなけりゃ泣くこともできない返せ緑を青空を返せ青い海を返せ返せ返せ返せ返せ命を太陽を返せ返せ返せ
So, Jake, would you recommend the Spy? God,
Would you recommend Spy Kids -1?
would you recommend The Majesty Who Loved Me? And The Smog Monster for a first-time viewer.
As far as The Spy Who Loved Me, yes, I recommend it for a first-time viewer. It is a very strong one. Objectively, Roger Moore's best. It has... I was gonna say something nice about Anya, but then Cruz was staring at me. But no, it's a really fun spy versus spy adventure. It's a really good look into world politics at the time, and it is generally just super fun. As far as Hedera goes, yes, for God's sakes, watch this. I'd say, even though it is, balls to the wall, I think this is a really great stepping on point for Godzilla, because it is absolutely batshit insane, badass monster fights, a really memorable stays with you monster, and a nice little environmental message. So yeah, awesome movie.
I have to agree. Adding on to what he said about The Spy Who Loved Me is it's also kind of like a mishmash of previous movies. So you get a little bit of an idea of what some general hijinks can occur with Bond villains' evil plans. So if nothing in this movie turns you away in terms of the evil plans, you'll probably enjoy some of the other movies that came before it and after. Hedora is just... seeing bodies fall in front of you and then just like dissolve into skeleton. Jesus fucking Christ. This is definitely... would you call this the darkest of them? Because like if there's anything darker than this in that regard, Jesus Christ, I don't know if I'm ready for it.
I'm not entirely sure, but it's definitely one of the closest we've gotten to like a horror film in the Godzilla series, I would say.
So as for The Spy Who Loved Me, I really enjoyed this movie. It was a very fun Bond film that took itself just seriously enough to feel like it has some pretty serious stakes behind it the whole time. So it's a fairly easy movie to stay engaged with. As for Godzilla vs. Hedorah, another great movie. I'm not sure I would recommend either of these as someone's first watch, but I do think that they could work as someone's first watch, as they're both fairly well encapsulative of what makes each respective franchise great.
For The Spy Who Loved Me, I'm just going to be a biased bitch and say, no, you killed Naomi. I cannot recommend this movie. To its credit, it's really entertaining. It's really well made. It's one of the better Bond films, but no, you killed my Naomi. I can't forgive you for that.
So yes.
Pretty much. And Jake pretty much like took the words right out of my mouth. It makes me incredibly happy to find someone who does, in fact, put this movie up there with some of the better Godzilla films. It has its audience, but I don't feel like it gets enough love as it is. But yeah, it's pretty much one of the closer Godzilla films we've gotten to something horrific, and it does have the strong message while also being experimental and weird and strange, and definitely a product of its time for all the right reasons.
Next time on James Bond, it's Bond in Space. James Bond will return in Moonraker.
And next time on Godzilla, we face a plethora of insanity, featuring manga artists, chainsaw chickens, and corn on the cob, in Haru Nakajima's last suit performance as our favorite radioactive dinosaur, in Godzilla vs. Gigan. Thank you all for listening to Bond vs. Godzilla. We'll see you next time with a martini in one hand and a rubber suit in the other.
Stay tuned and wait, Chainsaw Chicken?